Good morning, podcasters. Today is Wednesday, July 1st, 2026, and today it's our podcast news episode. Riverside wants to run your entire content workflow. New research says fans follow creators, not platforms, and Edison has a massive update on podcast listening time. So if you're listening live on Clubhouse, hit the share button top right-hand side of the screen and share it however Clubhouse lets you. And if you're catching us via podcast, YouTube, LinkedIn, etc., please share this with a fellow podcaster. And now give us about 30 seconds and we'll get things rolling. Thanks for being here. The Podcasting Morning Show is powered by Ironic Media, helping podcasters launch, polish, and grow great shows. And by Content Creators Accountant, helping creators build real business behind their content. Good morning again, Podcasting Morning Show. Thank you so much for being here. I am your host, Mark Ronick, and currently on stage with me, my co-hosts, Ralph Estep, DR Fay, Alex Baelish, Sid Meadows, and BC Babbles. Good morning to all of you. If you want to learn more about those fine people, just go to podcastingmorningshow.com/people, and you can find all the different ways to connect with them, learn about them, etc. As for today, yes, we are getting into the news. And first, I wanted to say a couple things. One, I realize we haven't been doing evaluations lately. We haven't gotten into our Spotlight series that we started. And I know we have a handful of both of those two things. So I want to bring that back. We're not going to do evaluations tomorrow because I haven't given our team enough time to actually go listen to one of these shows. Next week, I think we will bring back evaluations next Thursday, so stay tuned there. And tomorrow, I feel like let's play at least one of the spotlights and see how that goes. Bring that back again. So we will do that. Also, just want to shout out and first say thank you to DR for giving me the heads up this morning. An old friend of this show and good friend of mine, Larry Roberts, Red Hat Larry. You may know him more as such. And Larry and we started a podcast together several years ago. It didn't last terribly long, unfortunately. We were planning on doing some business together. That didn't last long, unfortunately. And we are still friends. It might have caused a little rift for us initially, and we had since gotten past that. The reason why I'm sharing about Larry is he posted a very brave post yesterday I saw it on Facebook. I'm guessing maybe in multiple places. Larry I'm trying to just think of how to put this. I mean, I guess I'll just be
going
blunt.
Through some stuff.
Yeah, but I'll be blunt because he put it out there publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Larry deals with alcoholism. And I knew that about him when I met him. He was one of the 7 of us that went to that creator house where we held our own retreat for 7 of us, where we taught each other our different skills. And it was a really amazing week, and he was one of the people there, and he shared that with us at the time, and he's been going through it, as you said, DR, for the past, for this whole year, really, and he's been in and out of rehab. He's in a facility now. He's looking to go into a long-term facility to really beat this thing, and I just want to shout him out and say how proud I am of him, how brave it was of him to post what he posted, and I'm rooting for him.
I got to say, if there's anyone going through something like this, you really would do yourself a favor to look up Larry Robert and take a look at his post, because it's a very long post. He talks about, it's almost a timeline that he takes you through. He talks about all the times that he relapsed and got back up again. I mean, he really goes through the timeline, and it really sounds as though he's in it to win it this time, you know?
Yeah.
So, very, very inspirational.
It was. And man, it sounds like a lot. So we are cheering you on, Larry. I reached out to him again today. He and I have been in contact over the last few months here and there. I've known what he's been going through. I've known really since Podfest. And yeah, Larry, you have my full support. Now, I'm talking to Larry as if I think he's listening right now, and I'm sure he has better things to do, but I'm putting it out there in the ether.
Especially because he's in California, and it's really early.
Yes, it's very early there. Yes, very early there. So wishing you the best, Larry, and you have our full support. Okay, so with that, I think unless there are any other announcements, let's do this officially and get into the news for today. And as of yesterday, June 30th, I want to give you some statistics, as I like to do, to kick this off, and a helpful number to understand the amount of podcasts being created is a total number of active podcasts. These are podcasts that are still being updated and therefore actively marketing themselves. If you're making podcast episodes, you might consider this number to be your competition rather than the big overall 4.7 million podcasts that are out there today. So with that being said, new episodes published over the past week, the number of new episodes, 532,593 to be exact, and that is down just 0.3% from the previous week. And new episodes published in the last 30 days, 2.2 million and change, and that's down almost 6% from the last month. So the summer slump continues. I call it a slump, but some of us, like the Podcasting Morning Show, made that conscious effort to reduce the amount of shows over the summertime. All right, so with that, DR, let's get into your two top 5 lists. You are muted. Read my shirt. Well, it doesn't. There she is.
Okay, there I am. Sorry about that. I was on the page of Good Pods, so I can read it clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so in the rundown, I actually put 5, like I normally do, but I'm going to take this one from number 6, actually.
Okay. Sure.
Because it happens to be someone that we know. We did an evaluation on number 6. So,
okay. And what's the category?
This is from Good Pods Relationships.
Okay, relationship category.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Number 6 is Better Call Daddy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 5 is 12th Street Talkback Podcast. Number 4 is The Thing About Us Podcast. Number 3, where's that timpani? There it is, Unlocking Us with Brené Brown. Number 2 is We Can Do Hard Things. And the number 1 podcast in relationships is The Manic Pixie Weirdo.
Cool.
That's
and cool
right.
to see
I said
Brené Brown on that chart. I've been a fan of hers for probably the past 6 years or so now. And yeah, I've checked out a little bit of her podcast, and I think she has a co-host that she does it with, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think so from that one I heard.
And I saw them in an interview, and they were talking about their relationship, how they were adversaries for a while, and how they actually came together. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I do love the dynamic. I think that they challenge each other a lot, and yeah, it's my kind of show. I recommend that show too.
Awesome.
Mark,
Go ahead.
Sorry, that podcast is with Adam Grant, and it's called The Curiosity Shop. So it's a different podcast than the one
it's a different one that's on here.
It's a different one. Yes.
Got it. Thank you for that, Sid. Appreciate that. Okay, go ahead, DR.
Okay, and the next podcast chart is from Apple's Top 5 Health and Fitness. Okay. So number 5 is. What is that? Nothing much happens.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is On Purpose with Jay Shetty. I always have to be very careful when I pronounce his last name, by the way. Number 3 is Huberman Lab and the timpani, right? Number 2 is the Dylan Grimaldi podcast. And the number 1 podcast in health and fitness is Passion Struck with John R. Miles.
Thank you, DR. Love the energy. Always do. I look forward to your top 5 just for that. Thank you, DR. Let's keep things moving and share just a few events with you coming up this month and maybe a month following this month. So first, podcast SEO, define your strategy and launch campaign. This is hosted by Well It Depends Labs. That's Ariel Nissenblatt. That's the woman who joined us just last week. I think it was just last week. It's hard to keep up with all of this, and especially all the guests we've been having. But yes, I think it was last week. And I will say I joined one of her podcast SEO workshops this very week, and I thought it was awesome. I wanted to see what she does, how she does it, and hear more about her strategy, and it was really helpful.
Were you in that? I signed up for it. I paid for it, but I didn't know that someone had planned to meet with me during that time, so I was not able to make it, but I got the replay.
Yeah,
so
I highly recommend watching it. We talk a little bit about applying podcasting morning show stuff that based on her strategies. So okay. I'm sure you will find it particularly interesting. I highly recommend it. It's happening Wednesday, July 15th. The times are 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., and we will put a link in the show notes if you are interested, or just Google, Well It Depends Labs, and I'm sure you'll find it there, too. So,
Mark, is this one like an extension of what you went to?
The one I went to, I think, was more of an overview with some strategies built into it, but I think this one is much more refined and specific to an actual putting it into place.
Okay.
So I highly recommend that. It is a paid event, and I think well worth your money.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Podcasting Made Simple Live. This is Podmatch's quarterly event. Podcasting Made Simple Live is a premium podcasting virtual event focused on helping podcast guests and hosts improve their craft so they can make a bigger positive impact on the world around them. It's listed on Pod News as a free event, but I do know he charges for it, and I also know that they give away a lot of tickets to that as well. So go check that out at podmatch.com. And finally, surprise, surprise, the Empowered Podcasting Conference. I must talk about that because we're, I think, like under 7 weeks away. And that's, to be specific, August 21st through the 23rd. We're recommending come August 20th so you can get registered. You don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn on Friday morning. And also you can join us that Thursday evening because we're going to throw a little soiree to kick things off that evening so everybody can mingle and get to know each other before we kick things off. So our mission with this whole thing is to empower indie and DIY podcasters by creating accessible, inclusive spaces where connection, collaboration, and growth are the priority. We believe podcasting is at its best when creators support others' efforts, share knowledge openly and candidly, and build relationships that extend beyond a single event or guest appearance. Speaking of which, where that extension happens today at 1 p.m. Eastern live, we will be Empowered Podcasting. We will be hosting our weekly live stream. We're going to have Shay Sparks and Adam Bird, two people that have created a really awesome community, and they are teaching others at our event, and we'll talk about it a bit today, how to do the same. So all of this to be said, go to empoweredpodcasting.com. You can get the link to the live show today. And of course, you can get the link to get your tickets. So get those now and use EPC Mark 20, EPC Mark, MARC 20, and get 20% off your tickets. I realized I should have done this.
Quick tip, smart move. Content Creators Business Bite!
And today's Content Creators Business Bite is brought to you by Ralph Estep Jr. of ContentCreatorsAccountant.com. Ralph is a licensed accountant with over 30 years of experience helping creators navigate taxes, bookkeeping, and the money side of their business with clarity and a whole lot less stress. And I think you got a good taste of what Ralph is all about yesterday on the show. And if you didn't hear yesterday's show, check out episode 544 and you'll hear what I'm talking about. He's also my accountant. I'm happy to recommend him. You can learn more at ContentCreatorsAccountant.com. With that, Ralph, what are we diving into today?
Well, good morning, everybody. And we certainly brought the receipts yesterday. And if you missed that, make sure you hold on to those receipts. But I just thought about today, it's really kind of wild if you think about it. Today is the middle of the year.
Wow.
Got 6 months gone and 6 months in front of us. And for a lot of podcasters, a lot of content creators, just like me, it's kind of been a blur. Like I look back and like, where did 6 months go? We've been recording, we've been editing, we've been posting, showing up. Somewhere in the middle of that, I wonder if the money side has just run itself where you hoped it would. So I want to give you permission today to do something. I'm going to walk you through 6 things that I think you should do in the next 24 to 48 hours to really bring this back to home and make sure you're doing the right things. I'm going to give you permission this morning to stop and actually look at what's going on with your money. The middle of the year is the single best checkpoint you're going to get. A lot of people say, well, I'll look at this when New Year's comes around. This is a great time to do it. The reason I like this time of year, it's late enough that you've got some real numbers for the year so you can see like where I really am. And it's early enough that you can still change course before December hits. So I put a blog post out. We'll put a link to that in the show notes today. It's talking about 6 quick money checks you can run this week. And I want to walk you through each of those real quickly. I promise this won't take a long time. I'm not going to take the whole show. The number one thing, you got to understand your revenue mix. The way you do that is sort every dollar from January through June by source. And what I mean by that is look at where your money's coming in from. Is it coming in from ad revenue? Is it coming in from sponsors, affiliates, products, and membership? One of the things I want you to do there is look at the percentages of the income that's coming in that regard. The reason I want you to look at that is there one source that's making up most of your money? If it is, that's the source that I really encourage you to lean into. If you've got one platform or one sponsor, you don't have a business yet, you've got a single point of failure as well. So take a look at that. Make sure you're being broad and make sure you're diversifying yourself. So that's the first thing. Second thing, lean into your real profit number. Almost everybody I know in content creation skips this one. They know what came in. They know what the top of the funnel looks like. But the more important number is what you've actually kept. That's something you can drill down on because that is really the number that makes the most sense. After the gear, after the software, after your editor, all of that. Those are 2 very different numbers. And here's the issue. Only one of those pays your bills. So you've got to know what your real profit number is. Here's tool number 3. Great time, and this one's shouting out to DR a little bit. This is your mid-year tax tune-up. Second quarter taxes were actually due June 15th, but don't fret about that. Maybe your stomach just dropped. You're thinking, wait a minute, it's already thinking about tax time. When you're a creator like this, no one's withholding taxes for you. So this is a great time to check and see, once you figure out what that net income number is, have you put enough money aside? I'm recommending 25 to 30% as that money comes in. That way, next April isn't this scary fest like it's a horror time when you go to meet with your accountant. Because that way you can prevent April from being scary. So that's tool number 3. Here's tool number 4. The content ROI check. Here's a hard truth. Not all of your content earns money. It just doesn't. And you've got to really look at where are you devoting your time and is it actually generating income? Is it making direct money? So it's sponsorships or affiliates or a product that's sold. Maybe it's helped you grow your list. Those are great indirect things. But find your top 3 earners and your bottom 3 and look at what's paying your bills. And what things are just a hobby, you might want to refine what you're working on. Here's number 5, the pacing projection. I want you to take your first half numbers and project for the full year. This way you can take a look at what is really going to happen for the rest of the year. That way you can start to budget yourself. You can start to get an idea of where you're going. If you are ahead of where you are, that's great. Keep working towards it. If you're behind, you've got 6 months to go and clean it up. And here's my tip number 6, and this one will save everybody money. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Audit those subscriptions. This is a great time to go and look at what you're paying for. Look at your schedule. What other apps that you're paying for? Pull 3 months of your credit card and bank statements. And listen, cancel what you're not using. You might find $200 a month. I was just working with a creator, found $1,200 a month back in their pocket because they found things they weren't using. If they're not doing anything, get rid of them. Here's the heart of it. If you have the capacity to figure this out, most creators just sit down and look. So this week, sit down and look and see what you can do to change the dynamic. That's all 6. Like I said, I put a link in the show notes today, my mid-year money check-in. Check that out. Walk through this. This is a great time to really focus while you still got time to change. You've got numbers that you can measure. So thank you so much for listening to my 6 points today.
Thank you, Ralph. Appreciate that. If anyone has any questions, now is your chance. Otherwise, forever hold your peace. Okay, then.
Epistem.
Oh, wrong button. All right, Ralph, I hit the wrong button.
I pushed the wrong button again. Now my screen froze up, my friend. Oh man, laugh it off, hit reset, let it spin. I pushed the wrong button again.
Yep, did it again. I've been on a decent streak, but not today. Okay, so with that, let's dive into some news bites. These are some stories that we think are important, and we don't know if they're going to strike a lot of conversation. So that's why we call them news bites. And this one is the headline, Why Mel Robbins Isn't Abandoning Audio. So Inside Audio Marketing reports that Mel Robbins is taking a very intentional approach to the video podcast boom. Yes, she sees video as a major growth opportunity, but her team still treats the Mel Robbins podcast as an audio-first production. So the translation, they're not just turning on a camera and calling it a strategy. Her team builds separate versions of audio, video, and short-form social because people listen differently than they watch. Audio can handle longer intros, recaps, and repetition. Video viewers, they bail faster than a guest who realizes you forgot to hit record. For indie podcasters, this may be a much-needed gut check. As we often say here, video can absolutely help you grow, but only when you understand the format that you're creating for. Mel's team reportedly spends serious time researching audience needs, prepping guests, studying viewer behavior, I'm meshing words together, and shaping each episode around one specific listener. That's the real lesson. The camera is not the strategy. The audience is the strategy. So I'm curious, is anybody here creating different versions of your show for audio and video, or are you publishing the same thing everywhere?
I'll jump in there real quick because, as you know, I don't want to thank Rob Walsh, as a matter of fact, because he finally got one of my shows fixed on Apple HLS.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, I have all of them on video. And Mark, to be honest with you, what I decided to do about 3 months ago is I'm considering myself video first, actually. And that's what I'm leaning into. And then the audio, I'm making it such that I don't say, well, look at the screen and all those sort of things. So I'm not doing two separate, but my production team is adding B-roll to the video side. They're doing a lot more lower thirds and titles and things like that. So we're using the same content. I'm not recording two separate things, but we are tweaking it a little bit on the back end.
Makes sense.
I edit my business client separately. The audio's edited separately from the video. So I feel that they're two separate things, two different listeners.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, technically, I guess we here at the Podcasting Morning Show do two different versions as well. We put out the live version, unedited, and then we put out the audio version, which is edited. So yeah, I guess we're doing a couple of different things. I will say that social media clips, vast majority of them, especially, like I said, clips, specifically video, I usually do pretty much the same thing. I might change if I'm putting like a text overlay title on it. I might change them for the different platforms. I might change up the captions with them, talking about that particular clip. But by and large, I'm mainly keeping that content the same. I do different things on social platforms aside from the clips, like LinkedIn and Facebook, for example. I put out every couple of days, at least, I put out a post that's really talking about some of the things that we talk about here on the show. And I'll sometimes tweak those specific for Facebook, specific for LinkedIn, etc. So I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it necessarily as strategically as, say, Mel Robbins' team is doing it. Anyone else? Just curious if anyone else wants to share. Is anyone doing the same thing? Oh, someone wants to come up. Let's see. Junaid wants to come up. Let's hear from Junaid. Welcome, Junaid.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, that's an excellent strategy that Mel Robbins has been doing. They've devised it, or they realized what they were missing. And this is the exact same strategy Alex Hormozi and Seth Silvers implemented last year. Their podcast was not getting any views, very small. So they're like, you know what? We're going to disconnect the audio version and the video version. We're just going to focus on audio. So they stopped publishing any video at all on his YouTube channel and just focused on the audio version of his podcast. When it started picking up in 2 weeks, I believe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then they started putting the video version back. But this time around, they edited the video for YouTube audience with the slide-ins, the sound effects, all that stuff. And then they took all of those sound effects, everything out in the audio version. Because again, as we all know, audio is a very intimate experience and you want to keep it intimate. Nobody wants to hear swooshing sounds or whatever if it doesn't make sense in the audio. and that's my cue. Thank you.
I wasn't trying to key you, just trying to play to the fact that you said no one wants to hear the whooshes. But yes, you did follow that up and said where if it's not appropriate. And I think our whooshes are used appropriately. Go ahead, Dan.
So I was just trying to dig through my desk of crap here, and I couldn't find it. I want to say it was Cumulus Media, not too long ago, did a study. It was relatively new numbers. The thing is that I'm only saying, and like what we've talked about it in the past too, is that podcast listeners on YouTube, like 30 or 40% of them, it's like, I don't have the exact number, but it's kind of a pretty big number, listen to podcasts on YouTube by putting their phone in their pocket and then getting on the treadmill, going for a walk, walking the dog, doing the dishes, whatever. So again, that's stuff that I think people really always need to focus on is whether you are an audio first or a video first show. Like, it's like what everyone's saying is true. Just if you're video first, edit it so it looks nice, add your whatever, slide-ins or whatever. But ultimately, it would probably be pretty smart to always focus on that intimate feeling. Just focus on making the show so it sounds good. I don't mean with great mic quality. I just mean
content quality.
Yeah, is audio first for messaging. And that seems to take care of 40% or more of the problem. Because ultimately, when you're communicating, it is all about getting the listener, to think that you are talking to just them. And it would just be weird for a guy sitting in a $4 billion TV studio to be looking at just one person, because who would put that much money into communicating with one person? Whereas if it's in your mind and somebody has the phone in their pocket, it's a lot easier. It's such a huge cheat.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Dan. Great points. I think if we are making our shows with audio first in mind, I think that goes a long way for the experience of that consumer. I won't call them a listener, because if they're watching, I still think if we're designing our podcast for an audio audience, I think that can really just enhance the experience for an audio or video listener.
Mark, can I jump in there real quick?
Sure.
Because I want to disagree with something Dan said. I think that the video absolutely can be that intimate discussion as well. And I think what we're really talking about, when Janae talks about the people he talked about, he's talking about people who have built a relationship with their audience. And I don't care whether that's audio or video, to be blunt. If you're building that relationship with your audience, you can have that same level of intimate connection through video. And I think a lot of new podcasters hear that and they think, well, video has to be this thing where everybody's shouting and it's a big booming voice and talking fast. You don't have to do that on video. Video works in that intimate relationship as well. And I just don't, and maybe that's not what Dan was saying, but I just think we need to remember that you're building relationships. And that relationship is video, it's audio, it's however they choose to do it. But don't think that, well, my audio and video have to be completely different, in that the whole goal is to develop that relationship, find that pain point that the person is coming to hear from, and solve that for them. If you do that, to be blunt, I don't care whether you put it on audio, video, or transcribe it on a blog, it's still going to be impactful.
Well, so I agree with you. It definitely can. And where I call it invisible writing, I want people reading the words that I wrote and not pay attention to any of the words. I want them to the words to be invisible and just have it almost be like the little voice inside of their head is telling them what it says on the page.
It's like you're saying you're trying to create an experience. You're trying to evoke emotion and feelings. Is that fair?
I don't want them focusing on the words I'm saying. I want them to focus on the thing I'm trying to tell them. When you're trying to get a message out, it is literally all about getting the listener or the viewer, your person who is consuming your content, to have a series of mini epiphanies.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, I want to say something, and what I'm saying is driving the conversation. But meanwhile, in your head, as you're listening, Mark, I want your little voice in your head to be able to say like, wow, you know what I think? I think I got to listen to this guy's podcast, or I got to buy this thing this guy's selling because this guy is actually, he's telling me something that no one else is telling me. So when you can flip that, even with just a content, with a podcast, with a video, and it turns out that the listener or the viewer is talking themselves into giving you all of the credibility you need, the game changes dramatically. That's why I always say just go audio first, because audio is the deepest connection you can have. I'm not saying you can't have that same connection with video. I guarantee when people watch videos that me and my business partner put out, they're just thinking like, holy cow, I trust these guys. I love these guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Yeah. And so again, I do feel like the way I'm interpreting what you're saying is it's really creating an experience. It's evoking emotions, and it's making people think. So yeah, I appreciate your answer. And I saw Alex wanted to say something, but I see he just had to jet. So we can't go to Alex on this one. Sorry about that, Alex. Let's keep things moving. See, sometimes I'm wrong about these news bites, and we have more to say about them than I think. So with that, DR, you want to take the next story?
Yeah, so this goes under the category of, that's interesting. So the title of it is Your Car Brand May Be Snitching on Your Podcast Habits. A new analysis says podcast listening habits can vary a lot depending on what kind of vehicle someone drives. Tesla owners are more likely to spend in-car audio time with podcasts, while Chevrolet drivers are more likely to stick with the AM/FM radio. The report points to a bigger issue for creators and advertisers. The car is still one of the most important places where people listen. But not all drivers behave the same way. Brand technology, dashboard design, income, age, and listening habits all shape what people choose when they start the engine and pretend traffic is like a normal part of civilized life. Podcasting has always been tied to commuting, errands, road trips, and the sacred ritual of sitting in a parking lot to finish a segment. So knowing who listens in which vehicle can help advertisers target smarter and help podcast platforms understand where discovery really happens. So here's the question. Let's see. This is like a little survey that we're going to do the room, okay? What kind of car are you driving? And what do you mostly listen to in the car? Like radio music, like your mobile device podcast, or anything else?
Yeah. So for me, I think lately it's both. I barely listen to the radio. So it's either music or podcasts. And I say I'd probably lean more toward podcast especially when I'm doing a long trip.
What are you driving?
And I'm driving an Acura RDX, an SUV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I drive a Dodge Neon, my little Dodge Neon, and I cannot get into the car without loading some stuff on my phone, which as soon as I get in, it switches over to my stereo in my car.
Okay. Put a 1 in the chat for those who are watching or listening. Put a 1 in the chat if you still listen to the radio regularly when you're in the car, specifically.
What's the radio? What is the radio?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, dude? Like, does anybody even turn the radio on?
It's crazy because, I'm a former musician.
Right.
And I mean, music, I was born and raised around music. So for me not to have music in my life anymore, that's pretty much what it is. I don't have it in my life anymore. I have an enormous collection of CDs and vinyl that I am looking to get rid of. Wow. I just don't listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Mark. I just bought a new SUV. I bought a new Suburban. And the thing that's cool about it, I use Apple CarPlay for everything. I've got an H3 Hummer I have too. And I didn't care about the radio because as soon as I synced my phone with Apple CarPlay, I was good to go because I brought my entertainment with me. So I could care less what's in the car. So for me, it's like you can scope me out. You can read my data all you want because as soon as it hits the wall that is Apple CarPlay, that's all I care about. The scary part of that is I understand GM is thinking about discontinuing adding Apple CarPlay to their vehicles at some point in the future, which I think is a strategic mistake. But for me, it was simple. I pair the phone up and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I use the Apple CarPlay, and that's pretty much where I lock in. I do occasionally still turn on the radio, but it's usually, if anything, it's in the morning, and there's a specific morning show that I'm going to listen to. No, I'm not trying to say our show. I'm saying like there might be a morning show on the radio that I'll listen to if it's one that I have liked in the past. But yeah, for the most part, I lock in with Apple Play. And if I'm going to listen to quote unquote radio, what I find I'm going to lately is Spotify's AI DJ that they have, where it just knows what I listen to and it plays me different segments of different types of music. And it even talks to me, the DJ, the AI created voice talks to me. Hey, Mark, and here's what we're going to do today. So I love that. I enjoy that. I see Sid put in the chat, BMW X5, nice car. And he said if music, he's listening to Sirius XM radio. Otherwise, which I think most of us who know Sid now pretty well, know that Sid's listening to podcasts. He listens to a lot of podcasts. Yes.
But Ty put something interesting, Mark. Ty put no value, the same repetitive music and ads. And I think as podcasters, we need to think about what Ty just said. Because I'm hearing a lot of podcasts that are the same repetitive ads over and over again. So pay attention to what they've done to destroy radio, because we're doing it to podcasting as well. Just a little bit of a thing out there we need to be aware of.
Certainly got to be careful with that. Absolutely. Yeah, Sid, you wanted to say something.
So this is an interesting addition to this. When I'm listening to podcasts, I don't listen over my car. I listen in my earbuds. I don't know why, but I don't like listening to it over the car. I feel like I have to turn it up too loud. And to the point earlier about intimacy, I really like listening to people in my ear and not over the car. If it's music, then I'm listening to it over the car, right? But I always listen to podcasts with my earbuds in.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to think if that's like me too. No, I think honestly, it just depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm working out, like today, I do this intense power walk on my driveway because I have a long spirally inclined driveway. Those are moments where I'm going to put in my earbuds. But if I'm in my car, I'm happy to play a podcast on the stereo through the speakers. Yeah.
I listen through the AirPods just because, they actually keep flipping back and forth. And it drives me nuts. It's on the radio, then in my ear, and it's just ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, that's annoying. And that happens to me too.
I wanted to bring something up that's totally kind of different avenue about this. So, DR, you brought up, Tesla owners, for example. I'm not a Tesla owner, but it is really interesting that those numbers are kind of flawed because Tesla people. So most radio, like if you're a podcast fan, the type of radio you're probably going to like is going to be talk radio, right? Talk radio is usually on AM. Tesla doesn't have AM anymore because it screws up their electronics. So if you are into talk radio or talk podcasts, and you drive a Tesla, you're kind of screwed. And that's probably where we're going, because people have been trying to figure out how to get rid of the AM band for a long time.
Well, that's interesting.
Which is really sad.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Interesting. And I feel like a lot of the AM stations, you can probably get through the internet and play them through your car that way. Maybe not all
Wasn't
of them.
it great, though, back in the old days? Like I used to have to work where I'd have to travel across the country. And I'm sure truck drivers have this now, too, or back then. Is I'd be leaving one area. Like I hated Rush Limbaugh, but I would listen to that guy if I had to drive somewhere because I'd be leaving Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I was living. And as soon as that station would die out, I'd just start tuning in. And, here's Rush again in some other town where I am. You could just literally travel across the country. That was what was really cool about AM radio. Now we just put, podcast on or maybe get Sirius or something.
Absolutely.
But interesting.
Yep. It is interesting. Thank you, Dan. All right. I'm going to keep things going here. And I think what we're going to do is I'm going to skip a couple of stories due to time, but I do want to go to BC because BC has some tech news updates, which is a great lead in to one of our top headlines of the morning. So with that, BC, what do you got for us?
Yes, so a couple of cool features updates. One not so new, but I definitely missed it till today. So for those looking to consider Riverside for your free podcast hosting on a budget, they just launched their recording studio back in March. Now it gives a nice, cool Riverside feel for the most part. They've always had a recording capability, but the quality was not always there. But the new studio changes that. So with the studio, you're getting the ability
let me
to
stop you right there real quick, BC. You can keep going, but just don't go too far into Riverside because that's one of our top headlines today with their big announcement from yesterday. Okay, go ahead.
So I'll keep it separate. But basically, with this new studio, you'll be able to create and publish right from what's it called? Substack. There you go. It includes branding, so you can put your watermark or your watermark or publication logo on your recording as well. You can have up to 2 co-hosts. You can't push it to like 6+ people like Mark does on the live stream. You'll also get to create editable thumbnails. They've always done that before, but again, they weren't great prior to the studio, so this is another great add-on for Substack users. And I'll leave the rest for those who want to check out this article on the show notes today.
So
now,
that was Substack,
yes.
correct? Okay, that was
This
Substack.
was
Because you
Substack,
started
yes.
saying Riverside, so that threw me. But yeah, okay, Substack.
It's Riverside, but not quite the same thing.
I got you.
And now, moving over to Captivate, we have some cool updates with that. Growth-minded podcast host Captivate has turned on Captivate monetization, a full suite of tools to help its podcasters earn revenue from advertising. It comprises Captivate Marketplace for direct sales between your podcast and advertisers. It gives them a whole slew of ways to find your show. Programmatic advertising, an existing membership and tips tool, and a new campaign management feature for AMIE, which is the company's dynamic content insertion engine. There was a free webinar this past Monday. We'll send you the link. You can check out Mark Asquith, the managing director of Captivate, and Brian Conlin, president of DAX US, as they give their presentation.
Thank you, BC. Yeah, I saw Captivate last week, made those announcements about those monetization features. And yeah, Ralph, do you use Captivate?
I do. I am a super supporter of Captivate.
Yeah, okay, cool. So, and I am to imagine you're probably taking advantage of a lot of those monetization features?
I'll be honest with you, no.
Okay.
Because I think the best way to monetize your stuff is to sell your own product or service. And
That's fair.
I will die on that hill, my friend.
Yeah.
The chase of CPM is going to be a chase that you are not going to win unless you're a very large audience and in a network, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for that tech update. Now, let's continue that and talk a little bit about Riverside. Riverside wants your whole content workflow. They just announced 2.0, Riverside 2.0 yesterday, calling it the biggest release in the company's history. The headline for creators, Riverside wants to be where you record, edit, publish, repurpose, and distribute your content from one place. For indie podcasters juggling video, audio, clips, newsletters, social posts, etc., this is Riverside saying, hand us that chaos. We'll try to clean it up for you. So let me give you a couple of highlights here. First, they say that this is their first platform to span the entire creative workflow, and they claim it takes just minutes after you're recording to deliver a rough cut of your show, short form clips, a newsletter based on that episode, and posting calendar so you can schedule things out, including, I believe, social media. Riverside says the new rollout begins with a rebuilt recording studio and AI editor. I've been a beta tester and have played with that a lot, and it works really well. It's designed to be faster, more responsive, and more flexible for creators. One of the biggest additions to Riverside 2.0 is the in-person multicam recording. We've talked a little bit about that in previous news episodes, that it was coming. And this lets users record multiple cameras and mics on separate synced tracks through Riverside's Mac app. So you got to be a Mac user right now when that rolls out over the next few weeks. I mentioned newsletters. I knew about this as well as one of their beta testers. This is where creators can turn a recording into a newsletter and give audiences a page where they can subscribe. Thought that was a cool feature. I told you earlier, social scheduling. So they're adding a scheduler feature so you can schedule out your different clips to different social media platforms. And anything else, the company, I called this out not too long ago. They changed from Riverside.fm to officially Riverside.com. So the big promise here is less tool hopping. The big question is whether one platform can really handle enough of the workflow to replace a stack of separate tools. And I know, Junaid, you have a tool that does a lot of the all-in-one stuff too. Podglue, which, by the way, I saw Dave here in the Clubhouse audience said he featured Podglue recently, or actually as of today, in his newsletter. That's very cool to see our community supporting one another. But I want to ask the group. We often talk about how video can be intimidating. It can be pricey for people that are just getting into podcasting, or maybe even for some of us who have been in it for a while. Does Riverside's new feature help the barrier to entry, or are you concerned about an all-in-one place? And I'm going to go to BC first because I saw BC had his hand up a moment ago. Go ahead, BC.
Now, are all these features, because I believe Riverside has a free plan, right? Are all these features available with the free plan as well?
That I don't know for sure. It might initially with their initial free trial, but I would be shocked if all of these came with the free tool.
Fair point. I would say, though, even if it's not, it's a pretty affordable monthly subscription for Riverside. So I was even going to ask you before you asked this question, do you think this is the great time for someone to start looking at Riverside as the kind of end-all, be-all solution? But I think this is a great way to minimize the concern for anyone who's going to hop into podcasting. Do I have to have a website on this platform, plus socials over here, plus, newsletter over here? Because you have a lot of single service platforms that do just one of these things, but to have them all conglomerated into Riverside, I think is a pretty great asset for at least starting podcasters.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm with you there. I see a lot of people want to chime in. I'm going to go to Sid and then Ralph. Go ahead, Sid.
I have a question about Riverside. I have been a guest on Riverside before, but I've never actually used the platform. Are they, with this new update, are they allowing background for you to put your own backgrounds up? Like when I record my podcast, to have a background, it has, because I'm using it in Ecamm. When we do our panel discussions, we have a background and we have everybody kind of framed in position. Does it allow for that with this new update?
It doesn't, because they already allow for that. I have seen it available. You can choose different backgrounds. I think you can upload a background, and I think you can also choose from blurred backgrounds.
Do you know of a show doing that, Mark, where I could go look at it? Because I was told they didn't allow that.
They do. And no, I don't off the top of my head, but I will say where I think I've noticed a limitation, because I've attempted it here on this show, but I think with 4K cameras, it doesn't work. That's what I saw. It said it's limited to, you can do 1080p, so you can still get that high def, but if it's a 4K camera, it doesn't work. That's what I've seen. So there you go. Okay, Ralph, coming to you, and then DR wants to chime in.
So I'm going to give a non-technical response to this. When I work with small business clients, I always encourage them not to put all their eggs in a single point of failure basket. And I'm going to go back to this, and this isn't a commentary on Riverside. I just think it's dangerous when you're putting all of your workflow into a single product. Because if that product has an issue, if they have any downtime, you are completely invested in one thing. I'll give you a great example of this. Like in my accounting practice, I use one software for tax prep. I use another software for digital storage. We use something different for email communications and CRM. There are products out there in the accounting area where I could do it all in one. And I've steered clear of those because if they have an issue, if they have some kind of problem, then everything I have is in that particular bucket. And that's what worries me about, and it's not just Riverside. Like I said, I'm not throwing any shade against Riverside. Just a single point of failure concerns me. That's why I like the diversification of those things, because even in my short career of podcasting, there have been times when things have been down and I've been able to pivot, or my team's been able to pivot and go use something else instead of that. And to address what Sid was talking about, in Ecamm, it's actually a scene. And a scene is sort of built in the Ecamm directly. I don't know how that works in Riverside, but I think that's what Sid was talking about, is scenes that you can switch between scenes.
Fair enough. Thank you. And, listen, Ralph, I can't argue. You make a good case for the all-in-one. And I can't help, though, but to think, especially for new podcasters, there's so much to know and so many different places to go if you're not doing an all-in-one that it could scare off and does scare off a lot of people. And I like the idea of creating something all-in-one, something relatively simple that a new podcaster can jump into. All of that to be said, I think to your point, it's really important for us as podcasters to learn about some of these other things, these other tools out there for that very reason, so that if you are, say, a Riverside user and it has a day that it's down, that you know where you can pivot. You know that maybe you've learned how to use Opus Clips or Minvo, so that if you were using Riverside and it goes down, you could quickly pivot and go to something like that. So, it is layered and it does fall into the it depends category, right? But I do see there are advantages depending on where you're at in your podcasting journey. DR, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Ralph said. I have always been against the Walmartization of of kind of podcasting, the everything under one roof. It wasn't that long ago, Mark, that one of your good friends got kind of washed off of was it Instagram that he
yes,
got
he did
washed
get
off
it back. That's the Dopey podcast.
He did get it back, right? But the panic that it caused within him, the stress, the stuff the hoops that he had to jump through in order to get it back was insurmountable, was crazy. And as for new podcasters, because it's the easy way to go into that. The problem is that you kind of get comfortable in your misery. You know what? And it becomes one of those, it's good enough. In every genre of life, there are the good enoughs. It's good enough. Same thing with AI. AI wrote this for me. It's good enough. So it takes skill and everything. That's another story.
Yeah.
I'm going off another story. But you don't want to be a good enough. I think you want to diversify from the very beginning. I really do.
Okay, there you go. So we've got some differences of opinions, and some of us are agreeing with each other. I don't think anybody's really disagreeing. I just think it's different perspectives. I think there's a place for stuff like this. And I think, like I said, especially newer podcasters, I can see why it would be attractive and helpful to get their show off the ground. Yes, BC.
Quick follow-up question for DR is, with the new introduction of the industry term Walmartization, now, would it be worse if something were Costco-tized? And if so, how so?
I have to think about that because, I understand that
Walmart, but you
Costco
pay for
has
Costco.
some really
Does
good
that make
hot
it
dogs,
worse?
so I'm not sure.
And sushi. Can't forget the sushi.
Oh, the sushi.
All right, let's see. Let's squeeze in one more story. We didn't get to all of our top headlines. Let's go with, which one should we go with? Let's go with number 5, DR.
Okay. Podcast fans follow people, not platforms. Pod News shared a new sounds profitable study called the Podcast Atlas. And the big takeaway is a spicy one for creators. Podcast audiences may be more portable than we think. The research says that 73% of podcast listeners would follow a creator from audio to video, and 71% would follow from long-form content to short-form clips, suggesting loyal audiences are increasingly attached to the creator, not just the format. So some of the key points here is audio and video podcast listeners showed nearly identical episode completion rates, which challenges the idea that video is automatically taking over the listener experience.
Yeah, or vice versa. Yeah.
Short form clips are doing real discovery work. The study found that 84% of clip consumers say podcast clips lead them to become regular listeners, at least sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, 84% of clip consumers say that the clips lead them to become regular listeners. That's pretty huge.
That's
especially
pretty
because we
freaking
hear about
huge.
this in the industry a lot, that people argue that point. And I'm not saying that this particular study is the end all be all, but it is very revealing. I mean, it certainly goes against those people arguing that social media clips don't do anything for a podcast.
Right. And just to finish off the highlights, the newsletters remain a powerful retention tool. This is so important, I think. I'm going to repeat it. Newsletters remain a powerful retention tool. Among podcast newsletter subscribers, 87% said newsletters lead them to listen to episodes, which is a pretty loud reminder that owned audiences, channels still matter. And the last highlight is for indie creators, the strategic takeaway is that each format has a job. Audio builds trust, video deepens connection, clips drive discovery, social keeps you visible, and newsletters help bring people back.
Thank you, DR. Appreciate that. So I think that that is an important one to pay attention to all across the board. Those stats somewhat revealing from some of the things that we hear a lot of people talking about. So thank you, DR, for that one. And a reminder to all of you that we are back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and we will be digging into the mailbag. We will be playing some Spotlight series clips for you, so that could be yours if you submit it. So come tune in and check that out and get a little feedback from us along the way. And I will just say, until tomorrow, make it a great day, everybody. Take care.